Hey everybody, welcome to episode 155 of the Masterclass podcast. My name is Cam Brennan, and of course I am joined by the one and only Dave Hogue. What's up, man?
Hey, well, it's good to be recording again. Took a couple weeks off.
I think we just took one off. Right? We recorded 2 weeks ago.
No, we didn't.
What? Was it 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I'm a bad podcast host, Dave. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've definitely slowed as the years have gone by. That's all right, though.
Yeah. Well, things have been going on, Dave.
Yes. Yep. Oh, yeah.
Things have been going on. But we're back. And I'm happy to be here. You know what starts not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, Dave? March 15th.
Formula One?
Yes. Yes, Formula One starts March 15th is the first race in Melbourne, and I am very excited. I've missed it. The off-season did go by rather quickly.
I did kind of put the bug in Melissa's ear. I was like, we need to go to Formula One races all over the world.
Yes, please.
And her initial response was kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then I realized she Googled it and she's like, oh my gosh, these are literally all over the world. I was like, yes, exactly.
Yeah, you guys going to go to
And we could start with Austin and then, go from there.
And
so
just jump straight to Abu Dhabi.
Yes. So she was actually, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but she entertained the idea more than I thought she would. So
I still think we should go to the race in Austin this fall.
Yeah, I'm all for that. So who do you root for? Do you have a driver or a team that you root for, or?
Well, I mean, I like Lewis Hamilton, obviously, because
I do too.
The best there's ever been.
Yeah.
There's going to be
and he's a cool guy.
Right. And he doesn't, in recent years, his ego has really kind of disappeared.
Well, some of that's just growing up.
Right. Yeah. He's not a 24-year-old hotshot anymore. He's not Max Verstappen. Right. Who I also like for the exact opposite reasons. Right?
That's hilarious because that's exactly what I would say.
Yeah.
That's exactly who I like.
I liked Daniel Ricciardo when he was with the Red Bull. I thought he was kind of a, what's the word? He comes across as super entitled now that he's at Renault. And that bothers me.
And he has done nothing since he's been there.
Well, it's only one season, and it was
one season.
It was a step back from Red Bull as far as their
learning and
but he came across as so entitled, like his last season at Red Bull and his first season at Renault. But he's a likable guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do not like Sebastian Vettel. I think he's a crybaby. So yeah, I like Max and I like Lewis. I actually really like Valtteri Bottas as well because there's no ego there. He's just straight up, I'm just gonna drive and do what I'm told. And there's a lot of drivers I like. I like more drivers than I don't.
See, and I'm the same way. I enjoy the sport. I enjoy just the.
I was a big fan of Lando Norris last year, his rookie season with McLaren. I thought he did really well. He seems like a super likable kid. He's 22. I'm excited to see a lot of the younger guys in their second seasons, like him, Charles Leclerc. It's his third season, but his second with Ferrari. And I
can't remember his name, but there's only one rookie this year.
What team?
Only one. I can't remember. I just looked at it
because Alex Albon is on Renault now, but he wasn't
right.
Wait, or no, not
is?
Alex. No, sorry,
Red Bull.
Yeah, he's with Red Bull. I'm thinking of who's the French guy. He was on Racing Point 2 years ago, and he sat out last year as the backup driver for Mercedes.
It starts with an O, doesn't it?
He's another French kid. I do not like him, whatever his name is. I can't remember it now.
Isn't it an O? Why am I thinking like a...
I do like Alex Albon. He's a nice guy too.
Yeah.
Good driver. What is the... He got in a bunch of crashes when he was with Racing Point or Force India, whatever they were called 2 years ago. Whatever. It
was Force India 2 years ago. Last year it was.
Yeah. He's opposite Ricciardo at Renault now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's either on Williams.
Esteban Ocon.
Esteban Ocon, that's right. Yeah, I don't like him. I think the rookies either got to be on Williams replacing Robert Kubica, or um, Toro Rosso. That still might be Danny Kvyat and Pierre Gasly, so it must be whoever replaced Kubica.
Nicholas Latifi chooses Williams.
He's not a rookie.
No, that's
Nicholas Latifi's been around. He just wasn't. He wasn't in a car last year. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe he's the one they're considering a rookie.
Maybe. I've heard that name thrown around a bunch. Maybe it's just.
No, you're right. You're right. Anyway, I did just read like that it's one of the most intact from like one season to the next that you've seen in a long time.
Hulkenberg is out of his seat though, which is a bummer. I liked him too, but Ocon replaced him at Renault. Look at us talking Formula One on a Bible podcast for 5
minutes. and we just lost 99% of her.
It's all right.
All right.
People need to appreciate Formula One for what it is.
Yes, it is
a gargantuan money hound of a sport that most Americans don't know about or care.
No, it's all about people that have more money than they know what to do with, having a place to spend it.
It's obscene how much money is spent on that sport.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it so much. So yeah, I would love to see, as much as I love Lewis Hamilton, somebody else win it this year.
Oh yeah, I'd be fine with that too. I'd like to see Red Bull. I'm a Honda guy too, just day in day out. I like Honda. So don't they have Honda motors in their cars now? Or last year they went to Honda from Renault.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting too because there's a whole bunch of talk at the end of last season that what's his face that wasn't at McLaren last year, the Spanish driver, who did like the Indy 500, and he used to be Ferrari world champ.
Yeah,
I can see his face. This is what happens when it's not on TV for 4 months. My memory gets taken up with soccer.
I haven't quite made
Fernando Alonso.
So
at the end of this season, there's a lot of rule changes that are going into effect, and so there's been talk that Fernando Alonso might get a seat again next year.
Gotcha.
Which would be really interesting. Anyways, enough Formula One. We can recap the Melbourne race in an episode or two.
In March. So I will say this to bring it back to the average listener: Netflix does have a series.
Yes, it's so good.
And
they just released season 2.
Yeah, which is the 2019 season.
Mm-hmm. What's it? Something to drive.
Survive to drive. Drive to survive. Survive.
What it is?
Survive. Yeah. So anyway, if you're not into Formula One and you are curious at all about what it's like, Netflix comes through once again for us.
Yeah, I haven't watched the second season yet. I watched the first season.
Yeah.
When it came out, and it was incredible. You get really, really good.
Interesting storylines.
Yeah,
because like Force India, is that Force India, right? That storyline's kind of interesting from the first season, I thought.
Yeah, and you get access to the drivers and to the garage and people explaining, and you just like the way that the first season was done was really, really, really well done. And I just got the email a day or two ago that was like, "Hey, season 2's out," so I'm definitely gonna have to blow through that before I cancel my Netflix account.
Spoiler alert, Hamilton wins again.
Shh, David.
All right. Enough Formula One.
If you ain't first or last, Dave.
Shake and bake.
Oh, gosh, that movie. Dear 8 pounds, 6 ounce, baby Jesus.
That was like a movie that I had no desire to see. And then there was, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it would have been. I was working patrol, and on Christmas Day, we'd stay at the station and we watch movies. And we actually draw numbers, and everybody handles all the calls. You just go in the order of the number that you got. But we watched Talladega Nights at the station.
The Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
And it's just funny to watch it with other adult men that are as mature as I am, because it makes it that much funnier to watch. So, yeah, anyway. I had no desire to watch it. Then I watched it with them, and it was like, this is hilarious. So.
Oh, it's comedy gold, and it's incredibly quotable.
Yes.
Hey, Ricky Bobby, how'd your training go? Well, I got mauled by a cougar. I didn't learn a thing about driving. And I ruined my favorite Crystal Gale t-shirt. I am so paralyzed. Anyways, oh man, I'm gonna have to watch that too.
Yeah,
David, I don't have time to watch stuff anymore.
That's funny.
It's so good. Yeah, my new nickname's El Diablo. It's like Mexican for like angry chicken or something. Just, it's so stupid, but it's so funny.
Yes. So, thanks for listening to the All Things Automotive Talk. We could do a little click and clack now if you wanted to.
A click and clack?
They're the NPR guys that do the people call in and ask car questions, and isn't it click and clack? I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know, Dave. NPR is not really in my rotation of stuff I listen to. My dad, on the other hand, This American Life, Wait, Don't Tell Me. He's all about that life.
Yeah. Lake Wobegon.
Yes, Lake Wobegon.
Garrison Keillor.
Oh, man. Yeah, my dad loves that stuff.
So, the Bible.
Yeah, what
Book
we're
of
really
James.
here for. Shock. Here's the plot twist. James chapter 1, 22 through 25.
Yeah.
Will you do the honors?
All right. So here we go. But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this obviously leaves off from where we were last episode, right?
Correct.
About being quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger.
Mm-hmm.
So do those things, put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness. But also be doers of the word and not hearers only.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the interesting part where it says deceiving yourselves.
Very true.
Which is interesting. And we're going to get to that concept again next episode in verse 26. This concept of deceiving yourself. So what do you think that means when he says be a doer of the word and not just a hearer? Because if you're just a hearer of the word or someone who just listens to it but doesn't act, you're deceiving yourself. What do you think that means?
So the first kind of thought that comes to my mind is a person who goes to church, and basically that is their faith. That's their religion. I go to church on Sundays. I hear the sermon. I ask for forgiveness. I take communion, and that's like, they're good. That's kind of what it is. And, as you and I are discussing this, we have the written word. We read the Bible. Folks who are listening to the podcast are listening, but back when James would have written this, there wasn't a printed Bible in every drawer in every hotel room. There was the scrolls that the rabbi, the teacher, would have had. And so by being a doer of the word and not just hearers only, deceiving yourselves, you would go to church to hear the word. You wouldn't necessarily have it in your home, and you wouldn't necessarily be reading it regularly. And
it wouldn't even necessarily be read in your own language. If you're part of the Catholic Church, it would be read in Latin.
So I think this is just simply that don't just do what you're supposed to do because that's what you do. That's how I take this, is if you're truly just somebody that, you go to church on Sunday because you're supposed to, and you think that gets you into heaven, that falls short. That is not where you should be. So that's the first thing that kind of comes to my mind is, kind I put this on like the fire insurance level of I want to do just enough to make sure I don't go to hell,
Yeah.
but there's really no intention of living it out, right? So I don't think there's anything implicit. So, we frequently talk about as we grow in our faith. I think the biggest thing I see when I read the Bible is there are certainly, whether it's Paul or it's the Gospels, there is definitely this sense of our lives need to reflect what the Bible says. We need to be doing what the Bible tells us to do. And I don't think there's an expectation of us doing that perfectly. But it is definitely not cheap grace. It's not just, I believe in Jesus and I'm good to go.
I think yeah. Sorry, my brain is slow today.
No, you're good. And I think, like you said, we're continuing on with what we just read. And so, being slow to anger is what God is asking of us. He's asking us to be quick to hear, slow to speak, to put away filthiness, to put away wickedness, and to receive meekness, the implanted word, which is able to save our souls. So, I don't think this is telling us that we have to go out and proclaim the gospel to every person that we see. I really don't even think there's any kind of implication of we need to go out and beat people over the head with the gospel.
Turn or burn, Dave.
Yeah. I think this is just saying that it's a holistic life in terms of the fruits of the Spirit in Galatians 5. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. The hardest one for me, self-control. I think there is an element of our lives reflecting who God created us to be, what He wants us to be, and going out and doing that, and not sort of to an element of what I alluded to earlier of checking off all the good things and making sure that we don't do all the bad things.
So where my mind went with this was someone who just hears and doesn't take action. Like there's a bit of laziness involved there, like the modern equivalent might be just like, the consumer mindset. I'm just going to listen, but not take action on it. And that goes in line with what you were saying, right? And I think what's interesting about that idea here is this deceiving yourself part, like where you said like just showing up is good enough, but if it's not like we're listening to, a really good record, where like the entire point is just to listen, right? And to enjoy the experience of listening to an album from front to back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that the whole purpose of the Bible is to instill change in you and in the world around you, right? And some of that change requires it necessitates action. It makes you do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And to just listen, to just consume is, along the lines of the idea of cheap grace is to sell the Bible short, right? Is to not allow God's word to do what it is intended to do, which is to change people, to root itself in someone and cause them to be different because they have been, as it says here, received with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. So this isn't just a consumer mentality. It's a give and a take. It's a relationship. It's we have to be affected and changed by the truth, so that when we are living our lives, we are living in different ways than we used to because the truth has taken root in us. And I love James and his directness. Like, you're deceiving yourself if you do this.
Yep.
You are lying to yourself. You are being a hypocrite.
Yep.
You are doing one thing and telling yourself one thing, and then the reality is this other thing. And I just appreciate the the brevity and the bluntness that he so often. I mean, we're not even through the first chapter, and I've probably said that 4 or 5 times already about how he writes. So I appreciate it.
Yes.
23 says, "For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away and at once forgets what he was like." Which is that it's a really weird analogy, right? Someone who hears the word but doesn't do it is like someone who checks himself out in the mirror. Hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But then walks away and forgets. And it's like that's the definition of vanity to me, right? Is this idea of like I'm going to focus so hard on surface level stuff and how I look and what my appearances are, what other people are gonna think about me. And then as soon as I walk away from the mirror, I've just spent so much time. It says intently looking at my face, and as soon as I walk away from the mirror, I forget what I look like.
Mm-hmm.
Like the memory of a goldfish or something, right?
Yep.
If my level of intent is so deep that I stare at myself in a mirror, yet my ability to remember what I look like vanishes when I walk away, it's like I'm deceiving myself again there, right? I'm telling
Yep.
myself all of this. I'm trying to remember. I'm so intent on the outward appearance, but as soon as I walk away from that, I don't remember what I look like. It's like in Ecclesiastes, like, vanity of vanities, like chasing the wind.
Yes.
You can't there's nothing there to grasp. And it's a bit like, Sisyphus, right? Just push it up the hill, 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 only to start over and never get anywhere. And that just sounds tiring.
Yeah.
To be so focused on something that doesn't matter and that crumbles the second you walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of sad because how many people, and this isn't me saying I'm better than other people. Like I'm lumped in here too. Like I've done this before recently, just focusing so much on the crap that doesn't matter, but that I want to put first. And then walking away and not knowing who I am.
Yeah.
I'm so focused on the other stuff that what is truly important goes away. And then when the vanity falls, I'm left with nothing because I left the important stuff behind me.
Yeah. And, the other thing too is I think this is what is the purpose? The purpose of a mirror is to see what I look like. And so I'm essentially denying the purpose of the mirror by looking at it intently, and then I walk away and I don't remember what I look like. So the purpose of a mirror is for me to see my reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in essence, I am completely just ignoring what the purpose of a mirror is for. And I think that's what he's saying here when it comes to being a hearer of the word and not a doer. Is if I'm just a hearer of the word and not a doer of a word, then I'm just completely ignoring what the purpose of the word is. There's kind of this mentality of, and what comes to mind is Socrates, and I don't know that this is actually correct, but just kind of this idea of sitting on the steps and listening to a great orator, and they're speaking great words, and it's kind of this, just hearing words for the sake of hearing words and not really putting them into place. And so, again, just forgetting the purpose of the word. The word is to do what it says and not just to hear it. And again, I think about, I'm just kind of reminded of the local church and what we do on Sunday mornings. And this, you ask people about church, and it's very much that consumer mentality. Well, how is church today? And it's really all about how it made me feel, right?
Well, and even just think about the way churches are set up. We all sit in pews and we all look at someone talk to us.
Right.
So you were saying about sitting on the stairs listening to an order, and I was like, that sounds like church.
Yeah. And it truly is like there's an element of walking away of like, oh, he made a really good point. Not, oh, I feel moved to act based on what I heard today. you
Mm-hmm.
know, to really implement that in my life. So, and again, we've become such a consumer culture that is just, it's hard to unlearn. I think that is ingrained in who we are, of just, we partake and we evaluate on, was it entertaining, was it not entertaining, versus really the significance of it and causing us to change our behavior, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Yay, church. Continuing on in verse 25, it says, "But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing." And well, I mean that seems pretty straightforward to me. That last part.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do think it's interesting that he calls it the perfect law, the law of liberty, and then follows it up with perseverance. Like liberty is freedom, right? I've been
Yeah.
liberated. My chains and shackles have been gone. Like the burden has been removed. Yet
Mm-hmm.
still, I have to persevere. And perseverance and liberty aren't necessarily synonyms or things that I would put in similar contexts. So I find it uh, interesting that he puts that in there, and he's absolutely right. Like you read it all throughout the Bible, like just because you've been saved by Jesus doesn't mean life becomes easy.
Mm.
There's plenty of
Mm-hmm.
grace, there's plenty of love, there's plenty of forgiveness, there's plenty of hope. Life still happens.
Yeah.
Perseverance does not become uh, unrequired simply because you know you've been saved.
Yep.
Prosperity preachers will tell you different, but they're hawking a load of crap. Um,
Yeah.
it doesn't jive with the Bible in any way, but hey, whatever.
Yeah. And, lately I've really had this sense of, you talk about life, our work, and just what we do. And it, like, I've had this like just realization that, you don't have to be standing on the corner preaching the gospel. And I don't want to, I don't mean to sound like that does not have its place or it does not have its purpose. Certainly there is a time and place for those kinds of things, but just even being somebody that speaks the truth in love is incredibly difficult. Forgiving people that do you wrong over and over again is incredibly tiring. Doing the right thing when it would be easier to just take shortcuts, or and I'm not even going to say do the wrong thing, but just do nothing. You just kind of avoid the situation.
Mm,
I'm just reminded over and over again that there are just basic truths about who God is and who we are as Christians, in terms of, integrity and honesty. And like I said, forgiveness and those kinds of things. It's like when you look about what Jesus talks about us doing, um, it's so much bigger than just proclaiming the gospel. And I don't want to minimize that. I don't want to minimize proclaiming the gospel, but I think there is just this whole life integrity, this whole life, so that even when we do screw up, even when we do things wrong, people still can look at our lives and go, okay, I believe that person is a Christian. Not because they have their act together, but because there's this consistency in, there's joy in their life when the circumstances would say that there shouldn't be joy. And it's not
mm,
something that you can just muster on your own. You truly have to be relying on the Holy Spirit to allow that to be in you. And I think for me, the most exhausted I am at the end of a day are the days where I'm doing it in my own ability versus really allowing God to work through me. And so I don't know if this is making sense or not, but for me, I just feel like there's every aspect of our life, every element of what we do throughout the day, and as we interact with family and friends and coworkers and complete strangers, just about everything that we do can come back to who God is and how He wants us to live. And just the realization that I fall short so often. And even when I quote unquote do well, how often am I doing it in my own effort versus really kind of inviting God into my life and asking him to work through me and that sort of a thing.
Mm,
Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense at all or not, but
I think it does.
so I guess what I'm saying is being a doer again is not so much this I check off the lists of I go to church, I don't cuss, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't, all these things that I'm not supposed to do. I think the right way, I vote the right way, and then I don't do all these other things that I'm not supposed to do. It's so much bigger than that and just encompasses every element of any human interaction that we have.
It's about motivations, right? And that again is something you see Jesus discussing and almost attacking in the Sermon on the Mount. You've heard it said this, but I say this, right? You've heard it said
great
not to commit
example.
Adultery, but I say anyone who's had a lustful thought about somebody else has committed adultery in their mind. You've heard it said don't commit murder, but anyone who's been angry with his brother, right? Like it's all about the motivations in the inner life. And if those motivations to go to church, to read your Bible, to pray, to not do the things are just to check things off a list so that you're good, well, you're not hiding that motivation from God, right? You may be hiding it from other people, but God knows, and he's much more interested in your heart and why you're doing things more so than he is about what you're doing, right? That's why Jesus called out the Pharisees and called them whitewashed tombs. They were doing all the right things, but their motivations for it were self-serving and egotistical and hypocritical, right? They looked good on the outside, but they were dead inside. And so, it's totally about your motivation and reason for why you're doing the things of the word. And that's incredibly important because God can see right to that motivation and right to that reasoning. And he doesn't mess around with that, like, at all. Only mildly terrifying.
Yes. Very true.
All right. Well, wow. I'm good on this one, man.
I'm good too.
Writing down one last note for the show notes. Dave, where can people find the show notes?
Oh my gosh. Masterclass. supermegacorp.net/masterclass/155.
Oh, you nailed it. Give him a round of applause, folks.
Woohoo.
Huzzah. Good job. Yep. Or if you're listening somewhere on your phone or just it's in your podcast app. They're there. They're links. You can click on them. Do want to say thank you for listening. I feel like this was a pretty low-key episode energy-wise. I'm like legit about to fall asleep. And not because the conversation wasn't invigorating, but it's just been a long couple of months.
Yeah.
And I didn't even mention I got a new boss yesterday at work.
Oh, interesting.
My third boss in less than a year.
Wow. Oh my.
Reorg after reorg after reorg. It's fine. My new boss is supposed to be super cool.
Well, good.
We literally got moved to a new division, my team of 3, because they didn't know what to do with us. And I'm not making that up. I have had that confirmed by the person who made the decision to move us.
Wow.
So that makes me feel good. But yeah, anyways, that's why I've been so tired and out of it this episode. I just so much going on. But glad to be here, glad to record. Thankful for those that listen. And if you want to and are able to leave a review for the show on iTunes, that'd be great. It doesn't have to be a 5-star review if you don't think it's a 5-star show. An honest review is exactly what we want, because if it's honest and it's a 1-star, then that's going to help us learn. And if it's honest and a 5-star, then I'll sleep well.
Yes.
But anyways, that's that. And I think until next time, I'm going to say ta-ta.
Take care.